Happy spring, everybody. We made it, y'all. So I recently made a poll on my Patreon to kind of help figure out which other places I should cover in this Tour of Kanto series, and the winning option was to still cover some of the named places like Rock Tunnel or the SS Anne, etc. One comment said that I should discuss Cycling Road for the springtime, so yeah, that's what I decided to do. And do check out my Patreon if you're interested in participating in some of these polls. If you're new to this Tour of Kanto series, I basically pick an area of interest in Kanto and devote an entire episode to talking about everything I can find in my research, pretending it's back in the late 90s and it's your first time going there. I talk about the game leading up to that point, which Pokemon are found there, what the characters say about it, some items you can find, how it's portrayed in later games, side games, the anime, the manga, the whole shebang. So let's see what this bike path is all about. Your journey through Red or Blue has reached about the halfway point, and exploration through Kanto has been going swimmingly. You've conquered a handful of gyms, made it to the bustling metropolis of Celadon City, where you uncovered the secrets of Team Rocket in the game corner. You acquired the Sylph Scope to be able to see all the super scary ghosts in Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town, and you even calmed the spirit of a Marowak who was killed trying to protect its baby.
Wow, neato!
Celebrations were had by all. The kindly old Mr. Fuji rewards you with one of Ian Anderson's old flutes that he used to use during Jethro Tull's 1970 tour to promote their benefit album. Excellent album, by the way, go check it out. But Mr. Fuji tells you that upon hearing the Poke Flute, sleeping Pokemon will spring awake. Spring, right? Yeah. It works on all sleeping Pokemon. Hey, wait, sleeping Pokemon? Now, when you tried to head west of Celadon City before, there was a sleeping Pokemon blocking the way. Yeah, now things are starting to click. A real Zelda puzzle if I do say so myself. But also, if you spoke to some of the fine folk in the Celadon Pokemon Center, someone does mention the Pokeflute awakening Pokemon. And someone else says, if I had a bike, I would go to Cycling Road. And I rode uphill on Cycling Road from Fuchsia. So it's about time to test this theory out. Heading west of Celadon City takes you to Route 16, which not only has that sleeping Pokemon block in the way, but a tree to use cut on, which takes you to a house where you get the HM for Fly, allowing you to fast travel to any Pokemon Center that you've been to. Definitely one of the most useful items in the game. A sign right in front of this sleeping Pokemon says, "Enjoy the slope, Cycling Road." Ah, so this is where it is. So let's just see about this Pokeflute and, aha! Snorlax woke up. It attacked in a grumpy rage. This here is the pure normal type Snorlax, the sleeping Pokemon. Snorlax is very lazy, just eats and sleeps. As its rotund bulk builds, it becomes steadily more slothful. And judging by that Pokedex entry alone, that would maybe make you think that Snorlax is a weak pushover, but no, not at all. Snorlax has very high HP and attack, but very low speed. And yeah, that makes sense, since this thing is almost 7 feet tall and over 1,000 pounds. It may only eat and sleep, but bro can fight too. This is also one of 2 spots in the game where you can get a Snorlax, the other being Route 12, and you only get 1 shot at them too. If you knock it out, it says it calmed down, yawns, and returns to the mountains. I've always loved that description there, as it kind of makes it a bit mysterious. It returns to the mountains, like some mythical creature that wasn't supposed to be here. Snorlax is so bulky that it blocked 2 entire pathways and just slept the whole time. It attacks in a grumpy rage, which is a little threatening sounding. It's level 30 and has Headbutt, which is a decently strong normal type move for it, as well as Amnesia, which raises its special, and then Rest, where it goes to sleep for a couple turns and gets all of its health back. It can be relatively difficult to catch one, as it always has a 1 in 3 shot at getting full health. But I think everybody loves Snorlax, right? It's like a giant hibernating bear, it's awesome. But once you either catch it or have it return to the mountains, the path is now clear to enter a building. Upstairs are a boyfriend and girlfriend walking around and a couple binoculars. They simply say that they are going riding together. Aw, that sounds like it's going to be a nice romantic bike path. But just like with Snorlax blocking your path, this guard just a few steps away will block your path yet again, and this time he doesn't want water. He says there are no pedestrians allowed on Cycling Road. Wow, Sounds dangerous then. But of course, he will let you through if you were to have gotten a bicycle by now. How do you do so? Well, you listen to that creepy guy who's in love with Rapidash back in Vermilion City go on for about 45 minutes before he gives you a bike voucher to exchange for a free bike in Cerulean City at the bike shop. Very cool. With your big wheels in hand, you are now free to enter Cycling Road. Everybody here calls it Cycling Road, but really it's just Route 17. The first thing you'll see is a group of bikers hanging around. These street toughs are just sitting around on their motorcycles looking for a fight, all sporting their super cool mohawks trying to intimidate you. That's how you know they mean business. And I always thought it was funny that these tough bikers on the overworld are just tiny guys on a cute little bike. It's adorable. But there are a total of 10 trainers on this route, 5 bikers and 5 cue balls. As for the bikers, this isn't the only place in the game where they are. In fact, there are 10 others not on Route 17. But bikers almost exclusively use poison-type Pokemon of some variation of Coughing, Wheezing, Grimer, and Muck. There is one single biker here who has 2 Voltorb, so he's the outlier. But he does tell you that he got them at an abandoned power plant. Very interesting. My favorite one is the one who says, "Nice bike, how's it handle?" Reminds me of that one Harry Potter meme. But what the heck is a cue ball? Well, these are bald-headed dudes who sport leather jackets with a chain hanging low and, questionable belt pieces. It's a bit unfortunate to look at first glance, or even the 100th glance, but apparently they're called cue balls because their bald heads resemble pool balls? Yeah, I guess. There are 9 total cue balls in the game, so the majority of them hang out on Cycling Road. They tend to use fighting-type Pokemon like Machop, Machoke, Mankey, and Primeape. And then, like with that one outlier biker, one cue ball in the game has 2 Tentacool and a Tentacruel, but that's on another route. My favorite one of these guys is the one who says, "There's no money in fighting, kids." And then my least favorite is the one who wants to belly bump you. Where's that guard? And that's it for trainers here. A mohawk-wearing biker gang and leather jacket-wearing bald dudes who you would find at any dive bar in a movie from the 80s or 90s. Is this place safe? It started out seeming so, with the guard forbidding pedestrians from entering and that couple ready to go on a romantic bike ride. Then you actually get here and you're all of a sudden in West Side Story. It's pretty interesting, really. And map-wise, this place is enormous. Easily one of the biggest areas in the entire game in terms of squares you can be on. This map is long. Look at this thing. Because the main unique feature of Cycling Road is not only must you be on a bike, but once you reach the sloped part, you automatically move downhill. Just pretend this looks like a hill. If you try to pedal up or to the sides, you move slower than usual, and this is meant to resemble one very long hill. All this really means is that you will continue to pedal south by default until you run into a sign or a body of water or a train or whatever, as you continue to pedal in place. If anything, that makes this route stand out as being pretty unique. There are basically 3 paths you can take, either on the left side, which is more of a straight shot, the middle path between 2 bodies of water, which has a handful of signposts to read, and then the right, which is another straight path. These straight paths do contain trainers, so it's not a clean downward shot or anything. One signpost tells you to watch for discarded items, which kinda makes it feel more like a bike path with litter thrown around. Although these are usable items and not like a condom and an empty can of Code Red. 5 hidden items here in total of a rare candy, full restore, max revive, PP up, and max elixir. I wonder why these all are here actually. Were they all dropped? I guess people were riding dirty too much. Another sign gives you some good knowledge to have. Press the A or B button to stay in place while on a slope. Basically pressing on the brake. Another sign tries to be funny. Don't throw the game, throw Pokeballs instead. You know, I think that's advice we should all take. And yeah, in the northeast corner, there is one relatively small patch of grass to find some wild Pokemon, and this is the only tall grass on the entire route. 4 different Pokemon are found here. 40% of the time, you'll find Spearow, the normal flying type tiny bird Pokemon. Spearow eats bugs in grassy areas. It has to flap its short wings at high speed to stay airborne. Spearow essentially acts as the other early game bird option alongside Pidgey. They are both the tiny bird Pokemon, But while Pidgey has slightly higher base stats of defense and special, Spearow has better attack and speed, which I think does put Spearow as the better Pokemon of the two in Gen 1. Speed is especially important for critical hits. But Spearow are most certainly not exclusive to here, as they're also on 9 other routes in the game, even as early back as Route 3. But hey, you can get a decently high leveled one here of 20 or 22, because Spearow evolves into Fearow at level 20. 30% of the time you'll find Raticate, the pure normal type mouse Pokemon. Yes, Raticate is the mouse Pokemon. Good stuff. It uses its whiskers to maintain its balance. It apparently slows down if they are cut off. Well, that's unfortunate. But yeah, Raticate is the evolved form of Rattata, whom you could find all the way back on the very first route of Route 1. But it's far enough in the game now where you'll only find Raticate here and not Rattata. Raticate is actually quite good in the early game though, as it has pretty decent speed and attack. It kinda becomes less useful as the game goes on, but even still, a fast Raticate knowing Hyper Fang can cause some damage. I actually really like Raticate too. I love its mean look with the 2 sets of teeth always showing, keeping its mouth perpetually open. I'd have one as a pet if it didn't bite me. Raticate are only found in the wild on 4 routes. Here, Route 16, 18, and 21, so only on this side of Kanto, plus below Pallet Town. 25% of the time you'll find Doduo, the normal flying type twin bird Pokemon. Doduo is a bird that makes up for its poor flying with its fast foot speed, leaves giant footprints. Doduo is one I've already discussed in this series, as they are only found on these 3 connecting routes of 16, 17, and 18, and then in the Safari Zone. Doduo has pretty good attack and speed, weak in everything else. And yes, it has the interesting ability to be able to be taught Fly. It's basically just a ball of feathers with legs and 2 heads, and it can fly. I mean, alright. I've always thought Doduo was pretty average for me though. It's probably one of the Gen 1 Pokemon that I think of the least, but I do kind of associate this area of Kanto with Doduo at the same time. Doduo evolves into Dodrio at level 31, and you can find them here at levels 24, 26, or 28, so not too far off from evolving. And finally, the rare encounter here is Spearow's evolved form, Fearow, the normal flying type beak Pokemon. The beak Pokemon, I love that. Yep, it certainly has a beak. With its huge and magnificent wings, it can keep aloft without ever having to land for rest. And yeah, Fearow just takes Spearow being good at attack and speed and accentuates that. But with Pidgey evolving into Pidgeotto and then Pidgeot, Pidgeot looks a bit glamorous with its long plumage hair. Fearow, however, is much more scrappy looking, like it just got done with a fight and is ready for another. It even has a little mohawk as a nice pairing to all the bikers around. Even though none of them actually have a Fearow. Hey, maybe that's why they're here, to add one to the team. Fearow is also one I'm pretty average on. I do prefer Pidgeot of the 2 final forms of the early game tiny birds personally. Fearow are only found here to the south on Route 18 and then on Route 23. And that's it for the grass ones here. All normal type Pokemon, and they're all brown birds or rats. Not really all too exciting to be honest, even though these options being here does kinda feel right. You probably would find some scrappy birds and rats hanging out next to a grassy bike path. Route 16 to the north has Rattata, Raticate, Spearow, and Doduo, and Route 18 to the south has the exact same Raticate, Spearow, Fearow, and Doduo encounters, so they all definitely make up this area of the region. But of course, there is plenty of water here. Fishing is allowed, but surfing is actually prohibited, probably because it's meant to be a very steep hill. But you know the deal with the old and good rods, it's still and always has been Magikarp, Goldeen, and Poliwag, so let's see what the super rod encounters are here. There are 4 options, all with the same 25% rate. And well, 2 out of the 4 options are Magikarp and Goldeen, so that's kinda lame. Krabby is the 3rd one found here, which are also pretty common throughout the game. So that leaves the 4th option, Tentacool, which are ones you will constantly find while surfing on the path between Fuchsia and Cinnabar. I mean like 100% of the time constantly. I actually thought you can find wild Tentacruel in Red and Blue, but actually no, they aren't found in the wild anywhere. So while it's way too easy to get Tentacool while surfing, they're a bit less common while fishing, and they are here. Tentacool is the water poison type jellyfish Pokemon. It drifts in shallow areas. Anglers who hook them by accident are often punished by its stinging acid. And yes, acid being a move it knows by level 1. Tentacool actually has pretty great special and decent speed though. A base 100 special, which is much higher than I would have guessed. It's a pretty cool design though, although it's kind of considered to be the Zubat of the sea due to how sick you'll get of finding them on repeat. But if you don't factor that in, Tentacool is pretty sweet. And yeah, it evolves into Tentacruel at level 30, who is significantly stronger. And really that's about it for Cycling Road in Red and Blue. It's more of a connecting pathway between Celadon and Fuchsia, with a bike being mandatory. And this route is also entirely optional. The other way to get to Fuchsia is to go along the southeast side to routes 12, 13, 14, and 15, eventually connecting Fuchsia City to Lavender Town. Cycling Road is seen as a much faster way to go though, since it's literally a downhill ride from Celadon. At the very end too, there's a trade offer inside of the guard building, a Slowbro for a Lickitung. And well, this is the only way to get Lickitung in the original Red and Blue versions. Mark the Lickitung is the pure normal type licking Pokemon. Yeah, its tongue can be extended like a chameleon's. It leaves a tingling sensation when it licks enemies. Lickitung is a strange being, I gotta say. So yeah, that's about it. Snorlax at the top of the hill, Lickitung at the bottom. The yellow version remains pretty unchanged here. The layout is the exact same as well as the trainers and the items, no difference there. But the Pokemon you can find here are different. This time, the most common find here is Doduo, going from 25% up to 50%. So I guess Doduo is the Cycling Road Pokemon after all. Spearow is no longer found here, but Fearow was bumped way up from 5% to 25%. I guess Fearow is the Cycling Road Pokemon, but 24% of the time we have a brand new Mon here, and it's not even normal or flying type. Now you can find Ponyta, the pure fire type fire horse Pokemon. Ponyta is capable of jumping incredibly high. Its hooves and sturdy legs absorb the impact of a hard landing. This is now the only place in the entire game to find a Ponyta too, as it's no longer in the Pokemon Mansion in Yellow. And I mean, I can see why they added it here. It's a fast horse Pokemon now on a route meant for fast riding. Since Yellow is heavily based on the anime, Ponyta isn't actually in the episode dealing with Cycling Road, which I'll get to later. But the Ponyta-centric episode of the Flame Pokemonathon takes place near the Safari Zone, and this is very close to there, so maybe that's also why. But you can find Ponyta here between levels 28 and 32, and it evolves into Rapidash at level 40, not too far off. And that leaves the lowly 1% rare encounter here, that being Doduo's evolved form of Dodrio, the normal flying type triple bird Pokemon. And yeah, I love its inclusion here, it makes sense. One of Doduo's two heads splits to form a unique species. It runs close to 40 miles per hour in prairies. Dodrio is indeed quite fast with pretty high attack too, so it's a pretty sweet find if you can manage to find one. So overall, I think this is a better layout of wild encounters than Red and Blue. They're basically switching out Spearow and Raticate for Ponyta and Dodrio, which just feels right and is more interesting. Fishing with the Super Rod here is also much more simplified. Krabby, Goldeen, and Magikarp are no longer found with the Super Rod, but good old Tentacool was bumped way up from 25% to 70%, making it extremely easy to find here. And the other new encounter here at 30% is Shelder, who is no longer a Seafoam Islands find in Yellow. Shelder is the pure water type bivalve Pokemon. The shell can withstand any attack. However, when it is open, the tender body is exposed. Whatever that even is. It's a black circle to us. Shelder are in plenty of areas in Red and Blue, but they've been diminished a bit more in Yellow. They're only found here, Route 18, and in Vermilion City. And then, Shelder evolves into Cloyster when exposed to a Waterstone, which are found only a few short hops away in Celadon City. Oh, but that's not all. Oh boy. Remember that Lickitung trade you can get on Route 18 in the guard building? Well, it's been changed. This time, if you trade a Tangela, you get Spike the Parasect. I feel like I don't need to explain how awesome this edition is. Cycling Road in FireRed and LeafGreen is also relatively unchanged with only a few minor differences. The bikers and cue balls all have names now, like Zeke, Jackson, William, and Isaiah. A couple of the cue balls even have a Machamp now, so things are getting serious. You can also rematch a few of them with a Versus Seeker later on. The wild encounters in the grass are also slightly different, and this time there is no fishing or surfing whatsoever. No water types to be had here. This time, the most common Pokemon to find here are Doduo with a 35% chance, then Spearow at 30%, Raticate at 25%, and then the two rare ones at 5%, Fearow and Rattata. Yeah, plain old Rattata is a rare encounter here. Weird. Finding Snorlax at the north entrance works the same, and then Mark the Lickitung makes a return at the south entrance for a Slowbro and LeafGreen, but in FireRed, you gotta give up a Golduck due to them being version exclusives. And as far as the Let's Go games go, well, it's not even Cycling Road anymore, so I'd say that it's drastically different. It still has a similar looking layout, but you no longer ride a bike in the game in general, so it's just standard Route 17 in these games. Also gone are the bikers and cue ball trainers, so there's a plethora of random ones here like Picnickers, a Gentleman, a Lass, a Beauty, etc. There is one punk guy who basically looks like a biker though. Little Corey over there has a Primeape and a Graveler. But just take a look at this. There is now a Jesse and James encounter here where you get to stomp all over their Arbok and Weezing. Very cool. And again, this kinda deals with the episode of the anime that I'll get to later, which makes it even stranger why they're here in this game since it's no longer Cycling Road. But just because it's a completely different type of area doesn't mean there wasn't a ton added here. There are a lot of items you can find here, some hidden, some out in the open, some given as rewards. Pokemon encounters have also been way amped up here with 11 different ones in the grass alone. It's like a greatest hits of the past generations. The most common finds here at an equal 20% are Ponyta and Doduo, so it's cool to see Ponyta return here. 15% of the time you can now find Psyduck, making this one of the 6 places in the game to find them. I feel like I've talked about Psyduck in the majority of these tour videos, so it just keeps showing up somehow. 10% of the time you can now find the pairing of Pidgey and Pidgeotto, completely replacing Spearow and Fearow. Yikes, well this is awkward. Yeah, Fearow being pretty well associated with this place have now been pushed out in favor of their bird rivals. Now it's a real turf war. But then there are 5 different Pokemon you can find here at a low 5% rate each. Rattata and Raticate, Dodrio, and then the 2 newcomers of Rapidash and Eevee. I mean, if they were going to add Dodrio as the rare encounter back in Yellow, then why not add Rapidash here too? Rapidash is the pure fire type Fire Horse Pokemon. It just loves to run. If it sees something faster than itself, it will give chase at top speed. And yeah, along with Ponyta, this is the only place in the entire game to find them. I also want to point out that at least in Gen 7, Dodrio is faster than Rapidash. Just an interesting little tidbit. And yeah, strangely enough, Eevee are found in the wild here, but only in Let's Go Pikachu. I think it's weird that they included the opposing Pokemon in the wild at all in these games actually. You can find Eevee here in LGP, and Pikachu in Viridian Forest in LGE. I don't know, it's weird to me. But if we remember back to my Celadon City video, there's that chapter in the manga where Erika sent Red out to Cycling Road to go find an Eevee. So again, even though this is no longer Cycling Road, I feel like that's why it's been included as the rare find here. And then, like with almost any area in the entire game, the rare spawn here is Chansey, not unique to this route at all. However, that's not all. After you become champion and ride around with your flying Pokemon, there are 8 Pokemon you can find in the air. Pidgey and Pidgeotto are pretty common, and yeah, makes sense. And hey, cool, a 5% chance you can run into Wild Pidgeot here. Oh, and also just some little weaklings like Charizard, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, and Dragonite. But unfortunately, none of these are unique to Route 17 either. You can find all of these on almost any route in the game once you become champion, so it's actually less exciting than it sounds. But hey, Route 17 was one of the 23 routes in the game that got chosen. And that's about it for Gen 7. A very different feel this time that ends up being just an average route at the end with a bit of variety. Like with almost any area in the Let's Go games, it's just missing that little edge to it though. So let's go back to Gen 2 and see how Cycling Road changed in that 3-year span after Gen 1. And well, it's been shortened quite a bit, which ultimately doesn't make any sense, but whatever. That's mostly the case for a lot of the Kanto areas in Gen 2. I'd say it's close to being 50% shorter even. Most of the trainers have taken off and there are now only 4 bikers here. Riley, Glenn, Joel, and Charles. The old gang back together again, the Fab Four. 3 of them now use some fire types too of Magmar and Charmeleon. Items have been greatly reduced too, just a Max Ether and Max Elixir found here, both hidden. As for wild encounters here, ooh boy, we got an interesting bunch now and they vary depending on the time of day too. Basically, we're back to 4 different encounters in the little patch of grass here. Fearow makes its triumphant return, so that's cool to see again. But the other 3 are brand new to the area. Grimer and Muck are now found here, so I guess that little pond in Celadon City has been so polluted that they've sludged up the entire route to the west. Or maybe it's the reverse. Those good-for-nothing bikers and cue balls have no respect for the environment and polluted this route so bad in the last 3 years that that poor guy's pond in Celadon became polluted. It's all making sense now. But hey, we get a brand new Johtomon here of Slugma, the pure fire type lava Pokemon. It never sleeps. It has to keep moving because if it stopped, its magma body would cool and harden. Well, that's pretty awful. And also similar to what Spoink would become with the fact that it has to keep bouncing or else it will die. And I can only imagine how hot Slugma actually is, being made up of lava and all. So man, this place must be in real rough shape now with all of the sludge and lava moving around. Why are Fearow still hanging out here? This place is dangerous. Go find a forest or something. But this, along with routes 16 and 18, are the only places to get Slugma in Gen 2. Slugma evolves into Magcargo at level 38. Another interesting thing here is that while you can fish here, you will apparently never catch anything. Well, that's kind of a cruel joke. This place is really for the birds now. There's a joke in there somewhere. And finally, Gen 4 with HeartGold and SoulSilver, and it looks way different. It's no longer a natural bike path, but now a full-on metal bridge. There's a tiny little patch of grass in the north, but the rest is steel and metal. It's weird that this is the only game where it's like this, even compared to the Gen 2 game that it's remaking. It was still dirt and grass there, just polluted with sludge and lava, but now it's just a bridge. Firstly, they added many more trainers here instead of the 4 bikers in Gen 2. Now there are 11 bikers, which is even more than the original cycling road. The bikers travel in single file. To hide their numbers. The encounters here are a full callback to Gen 2 though. Fearow, Grimer, Muck, and Slugma. So this place is still in rough shape in the remake, just with more bikers around. But also, since this is Gen 4, you can find some with the Hoenn sound and Sinnoh sound on your radio. Plusle and Minun from Hoenn, and Shinx from Sinnoh. Kinda cool, but not unique to this route at all. As for the side games, and like with most of these areas that I've talked about, it's a place in Pokemon Pinball where you can find Spearow, Tentacool, Doduo, Lickitung, and Snorlax. And yeah, all of those make sense to me. And there's not much more to say about that here though. But the 36th episode of the original anime, the Bridge Bike Gang, is loosely based on Cycling Road. It's never explicitly called that, but the similarities are there to have it be close enough. Here, Ash and company have left the Safari Zone and come across a very long bridge. The guard there tells them that the bridge is still under construction for vehicles, but the bike path is open. He tells them that the bridge is 10 miles long, so it would take them until dark to walk across it. And of course, the 3 of them can't afford a bike as a nice callback to the Cerulean City bike shop. So they head to the Pokemon Center to try and form a plan. The nurse Joy there asks them if they could help her out by delivering some medicine to a sick shelter across the bridge in Sunnytown, and in doing so, she'll loan them some bikes. They agree to do so, of course, so they set off to cross the bridge with Brock and Misty on a tandem bike. So far, it's really not like Cycling Road at all. It's just them crossing a bridge with bikes. That is until they run into the titular Bridge Bike Gang with the leader named Chopper, looking somewhat similar to the biker trainers. These punks have some super cool bikes, with one front being a Zapdos head and another having pincers. They challenge Ash to a Pokemon battle. Chopper sends out his Golem, which is actually the first time you see one on the show. Ash sends out Bulbasaur, so this should be easy with that 4x type advantage. Good call, my guy. But then again, this is the anime, so Bulbasaur using Vine Whip multiple times on Golem does absolutely nothing. What, is Bulbasaur like level 5? Ash then brings out Charmander, who uses a combination of Ember, Flamethrower, and Fire Spin, which ends up lighting Golem on fire as it rolls into the Bike Gang, lighting some of them on fire. Another member named Tyra then sends out her Cloyster, also another anime debut, but because Cloyster is part water type, Misty steps in with the plan to use Starmie. But Psyduck comes out instead, and usual Psyduck shenanigans ensue. It tries to use Tail Whip and Scratch, causing the entire gang to laugh at it. Brock reminds Misty that its headache isn't bad enough, so Misty, the kind person that she is, starts to root for Cloyster to hit Psyduck in the head, and even plans on hitting it over the head with her bike. Real cute. But before she can commit Pokemon abuse, Jessie, James, and Meowth show up on unicycles. You see, Jessie and James used to be part of the Bike Gang, and all of the members really look up to them. And it was genuinely funny to me that the reason they look up to Big Jess and Little Jim so much, as they call them, was because Jessie would ride swinging a chain around, and James used training wheels. Jessie even calls Ash a nerd. Funny stuff.
Big Jess and Little Jim, what's that about?
Well, nerd, we had a pretty bad reputation here back in the old days.
Jessie then tries to enlist the gang to help them steal Ash's Pokemon, but the police arrive, breaking everyone up. Also just then, a terrible storm rolls in.
Storm's coming up, honey. You better get home quick.
Ash, Misty, and Brock are determined to get this medicine to the sick shelter though, and continue to push on through the storm. Yet where was the urgency when they were just dicking around trying to give poor Psyduck a headache and lighting Golem on fire? Anyway, the gang asks Jessie and James to also go out into the storm to show them how to really ride, and they reluctantly do so. But just then, a boat is passing under the bridge, causing the drawbridge to go up as Ash and company are approaching one side at the same time Team Rocket is riding on the other side. And then, in a moment completely bypassing any normal laws of physics, all of them launch into the air at the same time. Ash realizes that they aren't going to make it and even says they will drown if they fall, so they choose to use their bikes to bounce off of Jessie and James's heads in order to make it, knowing full well that they will drown instead. Our heroes, everyone. The Bike Gang then realizes they were riding in order to save a shelter, so they help them get to Sunnytown in time, and the episode ends with Team Rocket emerging from the water on one unicycle. So yeah, I don't know, I don't love this one. And as I said, it's not really the same cycling road here as it is in the games. There is no Sunnytown in Red and Blue, but there are multiple similarities. It's a bike path that has a guard who heavily encourages them to be on bikes in order to continue on. There are bikers hanging out in the path, and it is in close proximity to the Safari Zone. And the fact that it is a giant steel bridge instead of a natural hill seems to be what directly inspired the look of Cycling Road in HeartGold and SoulSilver. So there's that too. But as an episode of the show itself, it's just fine. I never love any of the Psyduck stuff, and with Misty trying to abuse it so it gets a headache, just kinda leaves it a little uncomfortable feeling. And come on, there's no way any of them would be able to launch into the air like that on such a steep incline in a severe rainstorm at that speed. Yes, I know it's a cartoon, but it's still stupid. But it's kinda cool seeing the gang use Golem and Cloyster, although neither of them match the Pokemon that bikers use at all. And I legit did think the gang idolizing Jessie and James was funny. James even says he wishes he had his training wheels to go out into the storm.
You're not scared of this storm, are you?
I'm not. I just wish I had my training wheels with me.
So yeah, not great, but it's the closest adaptation of Cycling Road from the original series. But strangely enough, the Cycling Road actually makes an appearance in the 155th episode of the Ruby and Sapphire series, The Green Guardian. At first, I thought this was a different Cycling Road because Hoenn does have its own version of it. But no, Fuchsia City is specifically mentioned at the very end, so it is the Kanto version.
Now, Fuchsia City waits at the end of the Cycling Road.
However, Cycling Road really only makes up about 4% of the episode. Ash, Brock, Max, and May arrive at Cycling Road, but it's closed due to water filling up on the road. The episode is all about Celebi creating vines to stop forest fires, and they meet up with a Pokemon Ranger named Solana, and Team Rocket intervenes, and you know the drill. But by the end, the day is saved and they can all traverse Cycling Road on their bikes, so Ash can reach Fuchsia City and the Battle Pike. So Cycling Road is definitely here, but it's really not relevant to the episode much at all. And yeah, that's about it for Cycling Road in the anime. It's actually not even mentioned in Pokemon Origins, at least to my knowledge, but it does make an appearance in some of the manga, and I actually already talked about it a little bit in my last episode of Celadon City. In the 19th chapter of the Red, Green, and Blue arc, Blame It on Eevee, Red is traveling down Cycling Road when he crashes from a Tangela bouncing around that happens to be Erica's Tangela. Red wants to immediately challenge Erica when he learns that she's a gym leader, but Erica sends Red out to find an Eevee first. Not even knowing what an Eevee is, Red tries to contact Professor Oak from the Route 17 Pokemon Center, so that's new, but he gets in contact with Bill instead. They eventually discover an Eevee who can use fire, water, and electric attacks and has a gadget in its ear. Red takes it to Erica to get some answers. And actually, well, that's about it. It's really just in the one chapter for the entire manga. But it does appear in one chapter of Pokemon Pocket Monsters, Get the Flying Machine. Red, Pikachu, and Clefairy are tired of walking, so they go get a bike from the bike shop to travel along Cycling Road. They rent a 3-person tandem bike and complain about the hills and winding roads, all until they run into a sleeping Snorlax. And they eventually just step over it. Well, how come it isn't that easy in the games? You gotta go through that whole rigmarole with a poke flute and taking down a casino crime organization and calming paranormal spirits and all that. But hey, it is cool that it not only dealt with the bike shop, but Snorlax too. And the very last thing to mention is the trading card game. And yes, there is a card actually called Cycling Road, but it wasn't all the way until the 151 set in 2023. Cycling Road is a stadium card that allows either player the option of discarding a basic energy in their hand in order to draw a card once per turn. I guess the thought is you're riding so fast that you can drop your energy cards to find new ones on the path. Yeah, I don't know why this is what the Cycling Road card does. We'll go with that. And that about does it for Cycling Road, or Route 17, or the Steel Bridge from Gen 4 in the anime, or whatever you want to call it. And as usual, at least in my opinion, it was done best in Gen 1, more specifically in the yellow version. I feel like that was when Cycling Road was at its best with the addition of Ponyta and Dodrio. Fast Pokemon for a fast-paced route. I like that it's this sketchy little place where the tough guys hang out and that you can't even enter it without a bike. Snorlax blocks the way to the north, you can get Fly, and then do some downhill riding to feel the wind in your hair. Or, run into a signpost. I also actually do like that it got so run down in Gen 2 with the addition of Grimer, Muck, and Slugma. Kanto can really be a depressing place in those games. And I think that's cool. I love the variety of Pokemon found in Gen 7, but it's no longer Cycling Road then, so it's certainly not the same. It's just a neat little area that you'll likely only spend a couple minutes in just to get between Celadon and Fuchsia, but it does end up being pretty memorable. And it's clearly the better option to get to Fuchsia City. Traveling along that southeast side with all the bird keepers, that can be an ordeal. That could even be its own episode sometime, we'll see. So thank you all once again for joining me on another tour video. As usual, do check out my Patreon if you want to participate in some polls for the channel, get your own assigned virtual card, as well as some Paraspectre swag. All the details are on there. Many cue ball belt buckle size thanks to all those who chose to join in the past, present, or future. I'll see you all for the next one. Paraspectre will return.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.